Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. One of my subscribers, and I am sorry I can't think of your name. I started the video before I got your name. She asked me to do a comparison between the events, because I've been to an event each week for the past 3 weeks. It was not planned at all. The Left Forum, People Summit, and the Antiwar Conference today. To some degree, all of them had this aspect of people in a room talking to themselves. All of them. It's just the way it was. And I guess any conference you have, to some degree, that's going to be the way it is. I think, let me say it this way. The People Summit, in some degree, slightly misses the point. The Left Forum, I don't want to say they're talking to themselves, but they have no solutions for action. Meaning, yes, we get to find a problem. No, we don't know what to do about it. This particular anti-war conference misses the point. It just misses the point. It's not a bad conference. The conference, I love the speakers. Those people were awesome. But what I mean by when I said misses the point, you want to end war. You want to end all of these things, these vagaries of humanity. How do you do that? Anything that's going to have a profit motive associated with it is going to have somebody trying to make a profit off that thing that has a profit motive associated with it. I am building a bomb. The government is paying me money to build that bomb, meaning I am being subsidized to murder people or to create tools to murder people. That bomb gets dropped. Hey, we need to replace that bomb. That's an easily replaceable thing. Every time it's used, you got to get another one, meaning I can use it once and I have to buy another. I can use it once. I have to buy another. That's a major money-making enterprise. That's an awesome idea. Let's just build shit that blows up. Hey, we need an industry, though, that would allow us to sell these things. And so we can get a steady stream of those things. All right? Now, does that industry has a vested interest in paying particular politicians to toe a particular line? Yes. If they have a vested interest in paying politicians to toe a particular line, are they going to pay them to toe that particular line? Yes. Yes. Why do you think there's super PACs? Why do you think you can stuff money in politicians' pockets by bundlers coming from one particular industry? Hell, that's not even the dark money. The money you don't even know about. Whether you realize it or not, the industries of this particular country have a vested interest in paying politicians through super PACs to do a particular thing. I'm Bob Taub from some kind of weapons industry. Maybe I make tanks, maybe I make guns, maybe I make bombs, whatever. I can murder people well for you, and I can use the latest technology to do that. I'm not going to warm people up. I'm not going to make sure people get their food. No. I can earn a profit murdering people, so that's what we're going to do. Now, as Bob Taub, I give to a super PAC named something, and that super PAC goes out and pays for Republican candidates or Democratic candidates to promote my agenda. Now, I'm probably going to pay for both, because if I pay for both, those parties won't bring me up in the conversation. So I'll just pay for both. That way I get 2 war parties. I get influence on both sides of the war party, and the conversation never has to come up about war. If I want to bomb somebody, kill somebody, whatever, those people are going to keep their mouths shut. That's not part of the conversation. If you've noticed, that has been our policy. That's not part of the conversation. That's not part of the conversation. We spend $1 trillion a year. Yes, you're going to see the budget like 500-600, but that doesn't take into account the dark money that these guys are using and pumping into that particular complex. That doesn't even include like cops and prisoners and everything else. You're talking about a huge amount of money off of murdering people or putting people in cages. That's a massive part of the economy. That is a big part of our economy. As a congressman, are you going to go back to your district and says, yes, I cut the military budget in half. And yes, I understand those people are going to lose their jobs. That's not an easy thing to do. Meaning, what's your incentive? Is your incentive to say, okay, I'm going to keep those people their jobs? I'm not going to say anything about that industry. Hasn't that been the modus operandi? I would argue yes. All right. Now, don't get me wrong. There's geopolitics in this, meaning it's not that the U.S. government is not doing things to want those things. So don't misunderstand me. And there are geopolitical aims in the sense of, yes, we're toppling Syria, or we want to topple Syria because we want somebody else in that particular land, or we want to undermine those governments. I know the Republican had that plan. I can't think of the name of it. But yes, we have some geopolitical reason that we want to undermine a particular government. So yeah, you're going to have that collusion between military and office. Or military, civilian oversight of the military, and this kind of corporate private enterprise thing that springs up in order to take care of the needs of a government that wants more and more weapons and more bombs. If you're spending this much on military, how are you using money to make sure that you have clean water, and that your bridges aren't crumbling, and that your schools aren't falling apart, and that people have food to eat, people have places to stay? If you're using that much money for that, how are you using the resources that you yourselves create in this particular country? Where's enough? Put it this way. How's there enough for all of that, and enough for the things that you need to take place at home? The answer to that question is there is not. There's not. So you have this situation where you spend more money murdering people than you do on the people you have in your particular country. That's amazing. That's amazing. Whether you're spending, and maybe, let me not say more, because I don't know the exact figure, but I think it's half of the budget goes towards military, which is still a massive amount of scratch that we create going towards murdering people abroad. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. What these groups miss is, yes, the anti-war thing is necessary because, again, that's a huge amount of money being wasted, furthered away. But they miss the profit motive. They miss the profit motive. It's like you're in a capitalistic system that gives incentives to do certain things. If you're going to do anything about war, anything about environment, anything about Black Lives Matter, anything about employment discrimination, anything about inequality, you have to deal with the model. You have to deal with the model. I don't understand why these conversations get away from that point. Like, think about it. I have this drug that you need. I bought the rights to this drug, and I'm going to raise this drug by 400%, hell, 500%. I'm going to make banging bucks off of it. I'm just being a capitalist. You think I'm being an asshole? I am functioning within the system. I am being a capitalist. Yes, I'm going to build this bomb, and yes, I'm going to pay this government or this particular person to try to push my agenda in regards to Congress. That person knows that the super PAC is out there giving them money, and that person is leaning in that direction. Yes, he's a horrible person. He's making weapons in order to kill people. The man is a capitalist. In our particular system, that man should be revered and respected because he's doing an amazing thing and a job creator. Yes, he's murdering people, but he's a job creator. I'm making this point that in this subordinate reality, those things are given credence. Those things are prized. You're complaining about something that people are getting rich off, which means you're going to have a hard time changing their behavior. The behavior that you change, for the most part, needs to be legislatively. The actions, the sit-ins, the protests, those things are nice. They're not enough unless they're sustained over long periods of time where you're filling up jails. The problem is you have people working basic wage jobs that's not making enough to survive, and you're asking these people to go out and get locked up. Why would they do that? What if they have a kid at home? What if they had other responsibilities they need to take care of? How about just wanting to deal with the responsibilities of taking care of themselves when they're working 50 hours a week? I'm making a point that the things you did in the 60s, no, this doesn't work. We have terror laws on the books. You're a terrorist. Take that guy to a black site. Meaning you can bust those people who are protesting. You have, what, that law in the state where you can hit somebody with a car or something crazy? I'm making the point that those things aren't as effective as a political alignment. This is a case I continuously make. I don't need those people doing actions in the streets. I need those people falling in line. Meaning, if you're Fight for 15, if that Fight for 15 is interacting with a union, if that particular union is interacting with another union that's somewhere on the West Coast, if that particular group is interacting with Black Lives Matter, if that other group is interacting with an environmental group who's interacting with the LGBTQ. I want alignment. I want political alignment. I don't need you to be on the street protesting. It's cathartic. I get it. I'm angry. I'm angry. I'm mad. I want people to know I'm mad. God damn it, I'm mad. I want to burn some shit. That's nice. You're still living in Trump's world. You're still living in that same reality. Are you not sick of this reality? And do you earnestly believe that the things that took place in the 60s and 70s and everything else, yes, you've gained ground, but is it one of those situations where a person loses weight, they get to 220, and they can't go further based upon the way that they've been acting, meaning you need to do something different? I was overweight. I'm sorry, that's a weird analogy, but it's true. I was 260 pounds at one point. I lost 100 pounds. When I got sick, I lost more than 100 pounds. But at a certain point, you get to like 200, 220, and it stays there for like a month, 2 months. And you realize, I'm doing just enough to maintain this particular weight. I need to do more. I am making this point that it's impossible that the actions that was taken in the 60s and everything else got us to a point. But in the same way that tactics change, dealing with policy, politics, and everything else, that particular time period, they change. They change. You have people in situations where they cannot afford to lose their jobs. They can't afford to be out here picketing. They don't have time to be out here picketing. They barely have time out here to vote. This is not a life. That's a slave wage. That's a slave labor. The person is a wage slave. In the same way that there was a regular slave working a plantation, that person is working a plantation that they probably hate. They're doing it because they want to make a living. I'm making this point that there's going to be less and less jobs. Less and less jobs. In a capitalistic society, your decision space is determined by how much capital you have. It's in the name. It's the highest virtue. If you're talking about war, you're talking about environment, you talk about all these things. Do you honestly believe that these people are going to lose their jobs? Cabbies, cab drivers, Uber and Alphabet, Google's parent company, is arguing in a court case over automated cars. They're going to fire those workers. All of those cabbies are going to be out of a job. All of those Uber drivers are going to be out of a job. Those cabs are going to be automated. Uber is going to collect all the cash from that, but those people are going to be out of a job. Stores are already to the point, Amazon, if I'm not mistaken, has the ability, you walk into a store, it automatically charges your credit card when you take something out. You don't need a worker. There may be one person who you need, but come on, you don't need nowhere near as many people as you did before, meaning those people are out of a job. There's never going to be enough jobs, at least in the capitalistic, in the private market, to accommodate all of these people. There's just not. There's just not. Companies work for the sin of profit, not for social need. Meaning they're not hiring people willy-nilly just to be hiring those people. They're hiring those people because they need those people to do a very specific task. Once their ability to do that task can be done by something else, that person is an expense. Away with him. I'm a capitalist. I don't need him. I don't need him. I'm a capitalist. I'm trying to make profit, not give him a job. Those things are different. I'm just making this fine point that those people are going to need a voice. And I'd argue that those people, meaning the majority of the country or half of the country, is a force to be mobilized. All of your aims and all of your wants are won using those people. They just are. Those people, for the most part, are leftists to some degree. They may be not flaming leftists as where you guys are, but those people, to some degree, are leftists. Your goal is political clout, not protests and marches. You need political impact. You don't have that with the Democrats. You don't have it with them. You need political clout. Each and every one of those groups that are in this particular country, whether they're unions, whether they're Black Lives Matter, whatever the group, whatever progressive group it is, whatever your numbers, whether it's Bernie-crats, local Bernie-crats, whatever your numbers, you guys should join. You guys should join. All of your aims are exactly the same. And I'd argue that the focal point of your force should be on this thing of fight for 15. And not just fight for 15, but this idea of organizing a huge number of people for a very specific aim. If it needs to be fight for 15, that's fine, but just understand, your problem is capitalism. Fight for 15, the point of it is not necessarily get people in unions, I would argue. It's to get people in political alignment. When those people make the decision that, yes, this is the thing we're going to vote for, and this is all we're going to vote for, meaning if somebody comes up who doesn't represent this, they're not going to get our vote. The world changes. The world changes. That's a movement. It's not people out there protesting or anything else. It's just, you can protest if you need to. You can have specific action when you need to. I'm not against it. I'm just saying that the crux of what you're trying to do is political clout, political influence. And I know you have the bourgeois union bosses. Fuck them. If you know that you have a bourgeois union boss, go around them. This, again, it's not about a union. This is about political power. You're talking about political influence. A union is nice. Having somebody in office is better. Having somebody who's taking control of the state and having other people who are in power with you in regards to the Senate and the House, they can push that particular agenda. I'm saying your goal is political clout. If you have half of the country in poverty, half of the country working low-wage jobs, that's a movement. 20% of those people is a movement. 20% of those people voting in absolute unison, loud as can be, voting in unison. That's a movement. That's all I'm saying. It feels like that's the thing it lacks. It feels like it needs this idea of our problem is capitalism, and all of these things are vestiges of the same problem. Do you honestly believe you're going to get them to stop pulling stuff out the ground and burning it in the sky? Honestly believe that. If there's a profit motive, they're making $1 billion off of doing it, and they're paying certain politicians to keep making them that $1 billion. Even if Obama did the easement for Standing Rock, there were still other pipelines. There were other pipelines. Meaning, it didn't change anything. Standing Rock, yes, it was a focal point, but there were still other pipelines quietly passing by. As long as you have that profit motive, and as long as you have people who take money in that way, that's not changing. That's not changing. Cops are going to continue to murder blacks in the streets because the state uses cops as a paper over for economic relief. If those people had jobs, those people probably wouldn't be getting murdered. Or at the very least, you wouldn't have to be spending all their money on cops to police neighborhoods that ultimately require jobs, not, a decent life. Not cops. Cops don't offer you a decent life. If you're using cops, you fucked up as a society. I'm just being honest. I mean, you can go from one issue to the next. I'm just saying, each of these issues, though, that people fight against, and rail against, and bitch against, and go to conferences against, is the model to which you were acting in. It's the model. Think about it. Think about the compulsion to compel a particular behavior using cash to do it. What do you do for cash? You get up every day. You go to your job that you hate. You work for 40, 50 hours. You go home. You repeat the process the next day until you're 60 years old, in which case your life is used up working on some plantation. Do you honestly believe that was a life? That was a life. Cog in the wheel. That was a life. I resent the fact that that's a human life. The point of human existence is human existence. There should be labor associated with it, of course, because you need to persist yourself. I'm making this point that what you do on this earth and the way you persist this earth is a choice. It's a choice. It's not a fixed quantity. It changes. As you get new technology, that technology should be used to serve humanity, not necessarily to serve private interests where they can just fire a huge number of workers and reap the benefits off of it. Ultimately, they're raping the planet or our particular country of resources, and they're using those resources to enrich themselves while making everyone else poor. That's the point I'm getting at. The politicians are just there to approve it, rubber stamp it, because ultimately that's what they're doing. They're getting paid to do particular tasks. That's where I think the conference loses. It loses it at that point. Meaning, yes, you're talking about all these other issues, but all of these issues are coalesced in one issue. The model itself. It's driving the behavior that you're looking at, and you're looking at it as if it's a separate and distinct behavior. It's not. It's not. You have a vitamin C deficiency. How does it show? Oh man, my teeth are falling out. What does teeth have to do with vitamin C? Well, if you're a doctor, you can see the root cause of it, and you can say, hey, okay, right there, that's the problem. I make the point that the things that are being expressed in our society, these plagues that these people are railing against, come from a very specific root cause. The model itself. That's all I'm saying. Until that's addressed, and until all those people go into society of coalescing into one, meaning it's like a NATO of groups. One thing happens to one, it happens to everybody. We're united as one, including the way we vote. Nothing changes. If you want to get a people's movement or people's party, that's it. That's it. 50% of the people in the country are in poverty. Get those people. Those are your soldiers. Those are your soldiers. I'll leave it at that. The groups weren't bad. The panels were awesome. The people were amazing who gave their speeches. Not crapping on the group. It was fine. It's just, again, what do we do tomorrow? I don't want to do a march. I don't want to do some kind of protest. What do we actually do to change the model itself? I'll leave it at that. All right, guys. If you enjoyed the content, feel free to share, like, subscribe. You can always support the work through Patreon. Thank you.